The gaming world is once again up in arms, and this time it is over advanced access, which is the feature where some games are allowing you to play early if you pay more for a more expensive edition. Now, it is also important to note that some people call this feature early access because you're getting early access to the game. However, Steam has pretty much coined early access as paying for like a beta of a game or to play a game early to test it before it's actually launched, whereas advanced access is you're getting access to the full game earlier than anyone else because you're paying more than the game is typically valued at. Now, there's a ton of examples of these, but the most two recent ones that are causing a lot of uproar is World of Warcraft: The War Within and Space Marine 2, also notably the new Star Wars game. So let's talk about it. A lot of people are saying that this is ruining gaming. So is it? As always, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm simply going to present to you both sides of the argument, and you need to make a decision for yourself based on what we see. I will try and set aside my biases. There are a lot of different complaints that people come up with the advanced access, but there are two major ones I think that are valid and good points, and a third smaller one to a lesser degree. Number one, it creates a pay-to-win scenario, and this is especially applicable in something like World of Warcraft, so that's what I'm going to focus on. So World of Warcraft just launched their new expansion. I released a video on it. I didn't like it, but plenty of people do. That's not the point. The point is that the people who got advanced access were able to make an absolute killing in the in-game auction house to make a ton of gold. And even though it was only, like 3 days early access or advanced access, that was enough time for people who spent a lot of time during that time to make a lot of money. And I know a lot of people's reaction is going to be, well, who cares if they earned a lot of money? They just can buy things within the game, so what does it matter? But what it matters is it's creating a pay-to-win scenario within World of Warcraft, because that gold can be used to purchase game time so you don't have to pay real money, and that gold can also be used to purchase runs for the endgame gear and the endgame achievements to make it look like you've beaten the expansion. So the people who got in early and can make the most gold are going to have access to the bigger guilds, the better gear, and be able to play the game without actually having to pay. That does sound like a pay-to-win scenario. When you also have things like competitions for dungeons and PvP and other things within the game, having 3 more days to study those dungeons, to study the PvP, to make adjustments as needed, gives you an unfair advantage against people who didn't pay for that. Also, outside of the game, in the more like YouTube realm, it can create this kind of pay to win for streamers and content creators, because many people are trying to be the first one to create the videos. Because if they're one of the first ones to create the videos, it has more chance of getting likes and clicks and follows and all those sorts of things. So it's beneficial to be one of the first people to create a good video covering something that's got a lot of hype like World of Warcraft or Space Marine 2. And especially when you're a small creator like me, it creates this situation with like Space Marine 2 where I say, okay, do I want to wait to make a video? Or do I pay the extra money to access the game a little bit in advance so that I can make a video first? And from a business perspective, well, that's an easy decision. But if someone is unable to afford that, well, now they're disadvantaged on something, and that's not great. I'm excited to play Space Marine 2, but I treat YouTube like a job. It's a side hustle. So I want to be able to get into Space Marine to start making content to be able to compare it to Helldivers because I know a bunch of people are going to do that, and I want to be able to compete. And it doesn't feel great that I had to shell out extra money for that. Point number 2. It creates a division amongst people and gamers, or classes, if you will. The people who are unable to get the advanced access are viewed as less than or poor, some way inferior. And before you say that doesn't happen, that literally happened in real time on World of Warcraft. I was there in the advanced access, and I was there when it actually launched. And before the actual launch happened, there were so many people in chat being like, oh, well, now the poor people are going to play with us. And people specifically making groups so they wouldn't have to associate with the lessers, the poors, the brokes who were coming into the game. That's really gross. I even heard that there were some guilds who were not allowing members who didn't purchase the advanced access because it was, well, are you really dedicated to the game? Are you not willing to spend a little bit of extra money to put the guild at a better advantage? Because again, we're talking about people who are trying to push for world first or the different competitions where money is involved or clout is involved. And so a whole group of people is now viewed as a less than citizen or unworthy or unloyal to the game or whatever it is. And it creates this horrible division. In my last video before this one, we were talking about toxicity in gaming, and this is only creating a toxic environment. And point number 2.5 or 3, this one doesn't matter as much to me, but I know that it matters to a lot of people, so I felt like I should bring it up, and that is spoilers. When Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, I remember there were multiple people who stayed up all night playing it just 24 hours straight as fast as they could, rushing the main mission so they could post spoilers. And the same thing happened when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. And it'll probably happen when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. That's just human nature to be a jerk. Like, I want to beat this so I can post spoilers online and ruin it for everyone else. Why they're that way, who knows? Do they need therapy? Probably. But I do think it is valid for people to have a concern of, hey, you're letting these people who have more money buy access in first and then ruin the experience for the rest of us. And undoubtedly, that's going to happen when it comes to Space Marine 2. When this game comes out in advanced access on Thursday, by the time people get into the regular game who didn't buy it, the entire campaign will be beaten and posted online for spoilers. But even worse than that, there will probably already be a meta established for the PvE cooperative and the PvP game, which means you'll get people getting kicked or being told they're less than because, well, you're not playing the meta. We already established this 2 days ago. You must play XYZ because that is the best and most efficient class or whatever have you. And again, that just feels bad to everyone involved. So that's a whole lot of cons. What are the pros to the advanced access? How can you argue for it? Well, the number one and most obvious thing is money. It's no secret that everything in the world costs money. And if you want to support your favorite devs, then there is simply no better way to do that than giving them money. This is why I don't pick up the super credits typically in Helldivers 2. Because even though they give us a free way to access them, I want to buy the war bonds. I want to give money to developers. I want them to be able to grow, and they need money to do that. Another big pro, especially for online games, is server stress. By splitting the player base up into 2 large segments rather than everyone trying to come in at once, you can avoid a lot of issues. Now, World of Warcraft, I know I use them as an example a lot, but let's talk about them. The first couple of expansions server launches were horrible. Constant disconnects, trying to get in for days, people using different techniques to stay logged in because they didn't want to sit in the queue, caused all sorts of problems. Since then, they've got it figured out and their launches are smooth, like zero issue smooth. But a lot of new games don't have the advantage of having 20 years of history and bug fixing to make that happen. So having this sort of a break is kind of helpful for them, and I like to see it. I like to see smooth launches. A bad launch can seriously damage a game. Now, I hit on this from a YouTuber's perspective on how it kind of sucks to have to pay all the extra money because you want to be the first one to make a video, but I'm going to say that there is an opposite side to that that is a pro for all the people who aren't content creators. People paying a whole bunch of money for advanced access and then playing the game are more likely to tell you if they don't like the game, which means you have time to cancel your pre-order or not buy the game and save your money if it's going to be something disastrous. Like Concord, for example, which is already shutting down on the 6th. So, it lasted 10 days, 11 days? So being able to see your favorite game, or hopefully soon to be favorite game, and seeing all the advanced access people coming out saying, this is bad, or give it another 6 months to cook, or whatever have you, can be a big pro for you if you don't want to waste the money. And if you're worried about spending extra money on advanced access, then be able to save $60 on top of that is a huge plus. So I think that's fair. 3 pros, 3 cons. For my personal opinion, I don't think the pros outweigh the cons. Because as you know, I'm a huge advocate for ensuring communities are not toxic and gamers coming together and making nice, good communities. And having classism and division is, of course, not good for that. So I personally don't like the idea of advanced access. But would I say that it's, quote, killing gaming? That it's the biggest scourge on gaming today? Or that it's the biggest regret of modern gaming? I don't think so. I think we still have bigger enemies like battle passes, early access scams, always online single player games, and horribly abusive monetization practices like you see in gacha games. And whether you like it or not, I sadly think that this one is here to stay. I don't have the statistic on hand, but I saw one come out with the Star Wars game that something like 70 or 80% of the player base was on the advanced access, which means that the players are overwhelmingly voting with their wallet, which is why we still have pre-orders, even though we have digital games that can't run out, so there's no need for a pre-order. People still do it. It's why gacha games stick around, even though people say this is horribly abusive and we shouldn't support it. They make between $50 and $150 million a month. There's simply no denying that this is what the consumers say that they want, even if the vocal minority on subreddit or forums say they don't like it. So I want you to leave 2 comments down below. 1, what do you think of advanced access? Are you a supporter? Are you against it? And 2, what class are you playing in Space Marine 2 when it launches in 2 days? And finally, as always, have a blessed day.